We've ruined an entire generation of men. What if I told you that an entire generation of men has reached a breaking point after years of societal pressures and shifting dynamics that have left trust in relationships shattered beyond repair? Men are now seeing patterns they once overlooked, and they are making choices that prioritize their own well being over everything else they were told mattered. The shift is creating ripple effects that women never anticipated, and the consequences are unfolding in ways that could reshape society for decades to come. The hard truths we are about to explore go far deeper than surface level frustrations, and if you stay with me until the end, you will gain a clear understanding of why men are walking away, why distrust has taken root, and what this awakening means for the future of everyone involved. If you are enjoying these Angry Guy videos and want to show your support, you can buy me a Red Bull using the link in the description of this video. Let us begin by facing the reality that society has pushed men to their limits in recent decades, and the result is a generation that is learning to protect itself in ways that were unimaginable before. Men have spent years providing, protecting, and showing up in relationships only to encounter repeated patterns that reveal a deeper disconnect. Through careful observation and honest reflection, many men have come to understand that the expectations placed upon them often do not align with the reciprocity they once hoped for. This realization did not happen overnight. It built gradually as men noticed inconsistencies between what they were told about partnerships and what they actually experienced in daily life. The stories are countless from men who invested time, energy, and resources into connections that ultimately left them feeling undervalued and unappreciated. One man might recall pouring his savings into a relationship only to watch it dissolve amid demands that never seemed to end, while another might describe years of emotional labor that went unnoticed and unrewarded. These personal accounts are not isolated incidents. They form a pattern that has become impossible to ignore for those paying close attention. As men began to share their experiences openly through conversations and online discussions, the collective awareness grew stronger. They started connecting the dots between individual frustrations and broader societal trends that have been developing for generations. The process of awakening involves stepping back from the noise of everyday expectations and examining the evidence with clear eyes. Men are now prioritizing logic and observable outcomes over idealized narratives that no longer hold up under scrutiny. This awakening has led many to explore ideas that challenge conventional thinking about gender dynamics and relationships. The red pill perspective offers an initial glimpse into these patterns by highlighting how traditional assumptions about compatibility and mutual effort often fall short in practice. It encourages men to question the stories they grew up believing and to seek truth through real world interactions rather than cultural messaging. Yet, even this level of insight has proven insufficient for some because the deeper layers reveal complexities that require a more comprehensive understanding. The black pill perspective builds upon that foundation by examining the full scope of human behavior and motivations without filters or wishful thinking. It aligns closely with the unvarnished observations men are making about what drives certain choices in relationships. This framework does not come from bitterness, but from a commitment to facing reality as it presents itself through repeated experiences and historical patterns. Men who adopt this lens report a sense of clarity that allows them to make decisions based on evidence rather than hope or societal pressure. They recognize that feelings alone cannot sustain long term structures if the underlying realities point in a different direction. The journey from initial doubt to full acceptance involves confronting uncomfortable truths, but it also brings a profound sense of liberation. Men are rediscovering their own value independent of external validation, and they are building lives that reflect their authentic priorities. One of the key figures whose writings resonate strongly with this modern awakening is Arthur Schopenhauer, whose observations from the 19th century continue to offer insight into enduring aspects of human nature. In his essay on women, he presented views that were controversial even in his time, yet they stemmed from careful philosophical analysis rather than mere opinion. Schopenhauer described certain tendencies in women as rooted in biology and evolutionary pressures that shape their approach to life and relationships. He portrayed them as operating from a perspective that prioritizes immediate emotional responses over abstract principles of justice or long term strategy. This led him to characterize their intellectual and artistic capacities as limited in comparison to those of men, though he acknowledged their strengths in nurturing roles, particularly in early childhood. Schopenhauer rejected the romanticized notions of his era that placed women on an unrealistic pedestal, arguing instead for a more grounded assessment of their contributions to society. He opposed efforts to elevate women into domains where he believed their natural inclinations did not align with the demands of higher intellectual or creative pursuits. His perspective emphasized the importance of recognizing innate differences rather than pretending they did not exist. For many men today, these ideas serve as a historical anchor that validates their own pattern recognition. They see echoes of Schopenhauer's conclusions in contemporary interactions where emotional drives appear to override logical consistency. This alignment provides a sense of continuity, showing that the dynamics men are observing are not new inventions of the current age, but extensions of timeless human behaviors. By studying Schopenhauer's work, men gain a philosophical framework that helps them process their experiences without feeling isolated or misguided. The decades leading up to this awakening have been marked by significant societal changes that placed increasing pressure on men while simultaneously diminishing the recognition of their contributions. Feminism, in its various waves, introduced ideas that framed traditional male roles as inherently problematic and in need of reform. Terms like toxic masculinity entered the cultural lexicon, framing natural expressions of strength and independence as threats rather than assets. Men found themselves navigating a landscape where their instincts were questioned at every turn. In educational settings, boys were often encouraged to suppress traits that had defined male development for centuries, leading to confusion about their identity and purpose. The legal system evolved in ways that appeared to favor certain outcomes, particularly in family matters where men frequently reported feeling disadvantaged despite their efforts to fulfill responsibilities. Divorce proceedings, family courts, and related institutions became points of contention as men shared stories of outcomes that left them financially and emotionally strained. These experiences accumulated, creating a reservoir of frustration that eventually reached a tipping point. Women, in many cases, pushed forward with demands for independence while expecting continued support from men in traditional ways. The mixed messaging created an unsustainable dynamic where men were told they were not needed, yet they were still relied upon for provision and protection. Over time, this imbalance became evident to those willing to examine it honestly. Men began to withdraw from the cycle, not out of anger, but out of a clear eyed assessment of costs and benefits. They stopped initiating dates that led nowhere and ceased investing resources in connections that offered little in return. The decision to walk away represents a form of self preservation rather than rejection of society as a whole. It allows men to redirect their energy toward personal growth, career development, and hobbies that bring genuine fulfillment. Many describe a newfound peace that comes from living according to their own standards instead of external expectations. They embrace minimalism, focusing only on what serves their well being and discarding what drains them unnecessarily. This shift has visible effects in social spaces where men are less present in environments that once revolved around pursuing romantic interests. Gyms, public venues, and dating apps show declining engagement from men who have chosen different priorities. Women have started to notice the change through social media posts and personal accounts expressing surprise at the lack of attention they once took for granted. Some express frustration at the difficulty of finding partners who meet their criteria, while others begin to reflect on the role their own behaviors may have played in creating this outcome. The pattern is consistent across various platforms where discussions highlight the growing divide. As men focus inward, they discover strengths they had previously overlooked in the pursuit of relationships. They invest in physical health, mental clarity, and financial stability, creating foundations that support long term independence. Stories emerge of men who transform their lives after stepping back from the dating scene, achieving goals they had set aside for years. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. One individual might describe building a successful business after realizing that his energy was better spent on self development rather than endless cycles of disappointment. Another could share how solitude allowed him to cultivate deep friendships and creative passions that enriched his daily existence. These narratives illustrate the positive outcomes of walking away, emphasizing growth rather than loss. Men are learning that being alone does not equate to loneliness when it is chosen deliberately and aligned with personal values. They find contentment in simple routines that provide structure and satisfaction without the complications of mismatched expectations. This rediscovery of self has ripple effects extending beyond individual lives as men support one another through shared communities and resources that foster mutual encouragement. And the societal implications of this movement are becoming increasingly apparent as traditional structures face challenges. Birth rates continue to decline in many developed nations, reflecting broader disengagement from family formation. Economic indicators show shifts in spending patterns as men retain more of their earnings for personal use rather than allocating them toward relationships or households. Cultural conversations are evolving to acknowledge the validity of men's experiences rather than dismissing them outright. Yet resistance remains from those invested in maintaining the status quo, with attempts to label the awakening as problematic or regressive. Men remain undeterred, focusing instead on the observable results of their choices, which include improved mental health, greater financial security, and a renewed sense of purpose. They trust pattern recognition over promises that have proven unreliable in the past. This trust in evidence forms the bedrock of their new approach to life, allowing them to navigate uncertainty with confidence. Women who once benefited from male provision and attention are now encountering the consequences of these shifts in tangible ways. Social media platforms feature accounts where individuals express difficulty navigating single life without the support networks they assumed would always be available. Demands for men to return to previous roles appear more frequently, highlighting the unexpected vacuum left by widespread withdrawal. Yet the men who have walked away show little inclination to reverse course because their experiences have taught them the value of boundaries and self respect. The game, as many describe it, feels rigged against fair participation, and they have opted out rather than continue playing by rules that favor one side disproportionately. This decision is not made lightly, but it brings clarity and freedom that outweigh the temporary discomfort of change. Men are thriving in their independence, focusing on self preservation and personal happiness in ways that feel authentic and sustainable. The black pill perspective offers additional depth to this understanding by confronting the darker aspects of human motivation without sugarcoating. It acknowledges that certain behaviors stem from innate drives that prioritize self interest over mutual benefit. Men who embrace this view report a sense of, of empowerment that comes from aligning their actions with reality rather than illusion. They no longer invest in fantasies of perfect harmony, instead, building lives that account for human nature as it truly operates. Schopenhauer's pessimistic lens fits comfortably within this framework, providing historical validation for observations that might otherwise seem cynical. His emphasis on the limitations of emotional reasoning resonates with men who have witnessed the consequences of unchecked feelings in personal and societal contexts. The combination of philosophical insight and modern pattern recognition creates a robust foundation for decision making that prioritizes long term well being. Throughout history, men have shielded women from the harshest elements of existence, taking on risks and responsibilities that allowed others to flourish in relative safety. Those days have passed as men recognize the need to protect themselves first in an environment that no longer rewards such sacrifices. They have observed how certain movements use narratives of victimhood to gain advantages while simultaneously demonizing the very group providing support. Accountability has become a central theme in these discussions with men, insisting on consistency and fairness in all interactions. When patterns reveal a lack of reciprocity, the logical response is disengagement rather than continued effort. This principle applies across domains from dating to broader social contributions where men are selectively participating based on mutual value rather than obligation. As the movement gains momentum, more men report similar transformations in their outlook and daily routines. They describe waking up without the weight of unrealistic expectations and pursuing interests that genuinely excite them. Hobbies once sidelined for relationship maintenance now take center stage, creating a sense of purpose and accomplishment. Financial decisions become simpler and more effective when focused solely on personal goals rather than shared obligations that may not materialize. Physical fitness improves as energy is channeled into self care rather than performative gestures designed to attract approval. Mental clarity emerges from reduced drama and the freedom to think without constant negotiation. These changes compound over time, building lives of quiet luxury and comfort that align with minimalist principles. Men remove what no longer serves them and amplify what brings peace and satisfaction. The result is a generation that is stronger, more resilient, and unapologetically focused on its own path. Women facing the new reality are beginning to articulate their experiences in public forums, expressing surprise at the sudden absence of male initiative. Some reflect on past behaviors, wondering if certain approaches contributed to the current standoff. Others maintain that the fault lies elsewhere, insisting on external factors to explain the shift. The conversations reveal a spectrum of responses from genuine introspection to defensive posturing, each highlighting different aspects of the divide. Men observe these discussions with detachment, having already made peace with their choices and move forward. They see no benefit in re engaging when the patterns remain unchanged. Instead, they continue building their individual fortresses of self reliance where external chaos cannot easily penetrate. The contrast between men thriving in independence and the challenges faced by those still seeking traditional arrangements becomes more pronounced with each passing year. The journey toward understanding has required courage and honesty from men who are willing to question long held beliefs. It involves acknowledging that not every cultural narrative serves their best interests, and that self deception only prolongs suffering. Through storytelling and shared experiences, the community of awakened men grows, providing support and validation for those just beginning to see the light. Rhetorical questions arise naturally in these discussions, prompting deeper reflection. Have you noticed how certain expectations never quite delivered the promised fulfillment? Why do patterns repeat across so many different lives if the issues are merely individual? What changes when men decide that their peace is non negotiable? These inquiries guide the conversation toward practical solutions rather than endless complaints. The focus remains on actionable steps that enhance quality of life and foster genuine happiness. Men are writing their own scripts, now free from the constraints of outdated roles that no longer fit the current landscape. This transformation extends beyond personal relationships into every area of life where men interact with society. Career choices reflect a preference for stability and autonomy over high risk paths that once served family provision. Leisure activities emphasize restoration and creativity rather than performative socializing designed to meet expectations. Financial planning prioritizes security and flexibility, allowing for spontaneous pursuits that bring joy without strings attached. Health practices become intentional with attention to diet, exercise, and mental wellness, forming the foundation of sustained well being. The overall effect is a more balanced existence where men control their own narratives and outcomes. They have learned that true strength lies in knowing when to step away and when to invest fully in what matters. The Men Walking Away movement represents not an end, but a new beginning for those brave enough to embrace it. As we continue exploring these dynamics, it becomes clear that the changes are not temporary reactions, but fundamental shifts in how men view their place in the world. The distrust that has taken root stems from repeated evidence rather than fleeting emotions. Men have examined the data from their own lives and the lives of those around them, reaching conclusions that are difficult to dismiss. They see a society that demands much while offering little in return for their efforts. In response, they have chosen paths that restore balance and dignity to their existence. This choice carries implications for future generations who will inherit the lessons of this awakening. Young men entering adulthood today have access to information and perspectives that were unavailable to their predecessors, allowing them to make informed decisions from the outset. The cycle of unrealistic expectations is being interrupted, creating space for healthier approaches to life and relationships. The professional lens through which we examine these issues maintains clarity and focus on observable facts rather than inflammatory rhetoric. Men are not disappearing from society, they are simply reallocating their presence to areas that yield positive returns. They contribute through innovation, entrepreneurship, and community building in ways that align with their strengths and interests. The intensity of their resolve comes from the depth of their experiences, but it is channeled into constructive action rather than destruction. Directness in communication helps cut through the noise, allowing for honest dialogue among those seeking truth. Professionalism ensures that discussions remain grounded in reason and evidence fostering understanding even among those who disagree. This balanced approach strengthens the movement, making it resilient against criticism and sustainable over time. Let us delve further into the specific mechanisms that led to this widespread disengagement. Over the past 50 years, societal norms evolved rapidly, with movements advocating for greater female independence, often framing male involvement as optional or even oppressive. Educational curricula began emphasizing certain narratives that portrayed traditional masculinity as problematic, leading generations of boys to question their natural inclinations. Media representations reinforced these ideas, presenting men as either bumbling sidekicks or villains in need of reform. Legal frameworks adjusted to address perceived imbalances, but in doing so created new disparities that men experienced firsthand in courtrooms and custody battles. The cumulative effect was a growing sense of alienation among men who felt their contributions were taken for granted while their vulnerabilities were exploited. When combined with cultural phenomena such as public shaming through social media or organized campaigns that targeted male behavior, the pressure became overwhelming. Men responded by withdrawing their participation from systems that no longer seemed fair or rewarding. One particularly telling example involves the dating landscape, where initial enthusiasm gave way to disillusionment after repeated encounters with mismatched expectations. Men would invest in planned outings and thoughtful gestures only to encounter indifference or escalating demands that never seemed satisfied. Conversations revealed a focus on personal fulfillment without corresponding investment from the other side. Over time, the pattern became predictable, leading many to conclude that the effort was not worth the outcome. They began prioritizing activities that provided immediate value, such as skill development or social connections with like minded individuals. The freedom that followed was exhilarating, allowing them to explore passions that had been sidelined for years. Stories of men rediscovering hiking photography or entrepreneurial ventures illustrate the positive redirection of energy. These pursuits brought a sense of accomplishment and joy that relationships had failed to deliver. The shift was not about rejecting companionship entirely, but about refusing to settle for arrangements that drained rather than enriched. Schopenhauer's insights provide a philosophical backdrop that helps frame these modern observations. His analysis of human nature, particularly the role of emotions in decision making, offers a lens through which men can understand the dynamics they encounter. He argued that certain tendencies are hardwired and resistant to superficial reform. This perspective resonates because it aligns with the evidence men gather through direct experience. Rather than fighting against these realities, they learn to navigate them strategically, protecting their interests while pursuing fulfillment on their own terms. The Black Pill complements this by offering a comprehensive view that accounts for both positive and, and challenging aspects of human interaction. Together, these frameworks empower men to move forward with confidence rather than confusion. The support networks forming around this movement play a crucial role in sustaining the awakening. Online forums, discussion groups, and content creators provide spaces where men can share stories, seek advice, and celebrate victories. These communities emphasize personal responsibility and mutual respect, fostering environments where growth is encouraged. Newcomers often describe a sense of relief upon discovering that their experiences are shared by many others. The validation helps dissolve feelings of isolation and replaces them with determination to live authentically. Rhetorical pacing in these discussions builds momentum, encouraging deeper reflection and commitment to change. Questions about the long term effects of withdrawal prompt thoughtful responses that highlight both challenges and opportunities. The collective intelligence of the group strengthens individual resolve, making the path forward clearer and more attainable. As men continue to thrive in their chosen paths, the contrast with previous lifestyles becomes stark. Gone are the constant negotiations and compromises that characterized many relationships. In their place is a streamlined existence focused on what truly matters. Financial resources stretch further when allocated according to personal priorities rather than external demands. Time becomes a precious commodity spent on activities that recharge and inspire rather than deplete. Emotional energy is preserved for meaningful connections with family and friends who offer genuine reciprocity. The overall quality of life improves dramatically, leading many to wonder why they delayed making the change for so long. This realization spreads, encouraging others to evaluate their own situations with fresh eyes. The movement gains traction not through coercion, but through the visible success of those who have embraced it fully. Women encountering the new reality often express a range of emotions from confusion to frustration as they adjust to reduced male engagement. Some begin exploring self reliance in ways they had not previously considered, recognizing the need to develop skills and independence that match their stated values. Others seek to understand the underlying causes, hoping to bridge the divide through dialogue and reflection. The process is ongoing and complex, with no simple solutions on the horizon. Men observe these developments with interest, but remain committed to their boundaries, having learned through experience the importance of consistency. The future will likely feature continued evolution as both sides adapt to the changed landscape. For now, the priority for many men is maintaining their hard won peace and continuing the journey of self discovery. The patterns men are recognizing extend into everyday interactions that once seemed ordinary but now reveal deeper implications. Consider the workplace where traditional expectations of male leadership and provision have shifted amid changing cultural norms. Men who once shouldered disproportionate responsibilities now question whether the rewards justify the personal cost. Promotions and advancements are pursued with a different mindset, one that values work life balance over endless striving for external approval. Colleagues notice the change as conversations turn toward personal projects and long-term visions rather than relationship status or family obligations. This evolution reflects a broader trend of self prioritization that enhances overall productivity and satisfaction. Men report feeling more focused and less burdened by unspoken expectations that previously weighed on their decisions. The result is a more authentic professional presence that benefits both the individual and the organizations they serve. In social settings, the withdrawal manifests as selective participation rather than complete isolation. Men choose gatherings that align with their interests and values, avoiding those that feel obligatory or draining. Friendships deepen when based on mutual respect and shared goals rather than superficial connections tied to dating prospects. Hobbies such as fitness reading or creative arts become central to their routines, providing outlets for expression and growth. These activities foster a sense of community among like minded individuals, creating support systems that are resilient and fulfilling. The rhetorical questions that arise in these circles encourage ongoing reflection. What does true fulfillment look like when external validation is removed from the equation? How can men build legacies that reflect their own standards rather than societal demands? The answers vary, but they consistently point toward independence and purpose as guiding principles. Financial independence plays a pivotal role in this transformation, allowing men to make choices free from economic pressure. Savings accounts grow as resources are directed toward investments and personal development rather than shared expenses that may not yield lasting returns. Budgeting becomes an act of empowerment where every dollar serves a deliberate purpose aligned with long term goals. Men explore side ventures or career changes that were previously set aside due to relationship considerations. The freedom to take calculated risks leads to innovations and successes that might otherwise have remained unrealized. Stories abound of individuals who launched businesses or pursued advanced education after stepping back from the dating arena. These achievements reinforce the wisdom of their decisions, demonstrating that walking away opens doors rather than closing them. Health and wellness receive renewed attention as men recognize the connection between physical vitality and mental clarity. Exercise routines become non negotiable components of daily life, providing both physical benefits and mental respite from external pressures. Nutrition choices reflect a commitment to longevity and energy rather than quick fixes designed to impress others. Mental health practices such as meditation journaling or therapy sessions help process past experiences and build resilience for the future. The holistic approach to well being creates a strong foundation that supports all other areas of life. Men describe feeling more alive and capable than they did during periods of constant compromise. This vitality translates into greater confidence and effectiveness in pursuing their passions. The philosophical underpinnings of the movement draw from multiple sources, with Schopenhauer serving as a cornerstone for many. His emphasis on the will and the limitations of reason provides a framework for understanding why certain patterns persist despite efforts to change them. Men find solace in his writings because they validate the observations they have made independently. The black pill perspective integrates these ideas with contemporary evidence, creating a cohesive worldview that is both realistic and empowering. It encourages men to accept human nature as it is rather than as they wish it to be. This acceptance frees them from futile attempts at transformation, instead, directing their energy toward areas where they can exert meaningful control. The result is a more harmonious existence where actions align with truth rather than illusion. As the conversation expands, it becomes evident that the movement is not confined to any single demographic or region. Men from diverse backgrounds are reaching similar conclusions through their unique experiences. Urban professionals, rural workers, and students alike report parallel realizations about the cost benefit ratio of traditional relationship models. This universality strengthens the message and broadens its appeal. Online platforms facilitate the exchange of ideas, allowing insights to spread rapidly across borders and cultures. The global nature of the awakening suggests that the underlying dynamics transcend specific contexts, pointing to fundamental aspects of human behavior. Men are connecting with one another in unprecedented ways, sharing strategies for navigating the new reality and supporting one another through challenges. Women who engage with these discussions often bring valuable perspectives that enrich the dialogue, even when viewpoints differ. Some acknowledge the validity of men's concerns, while others challenge certain interpretations, prompting deeper analysis. The exchange, while sometimes tense, ultimately contributes to a more nuanced understanding of the issues at stake. Men remain committed to their path, regardless of external opinions, because their decisions are rooted in personal experience and observable outcomes. They focus on what they can control, their own actions, attitudes, and environments, rather than attempting to dictate the behavior of others. This mindset fosters resilience and adaptability, allowing the movement to evolve in response to changing circumstances. The storytelling aspect of the awakening helps convey complex ideas in relatable terms. Imagine a young man entering adulthood filled with optimism, about finding a meaningful partnership only to encounter repeated disappointments that erode his trust. He invests time and resources into connections that seem promising, yet consistently fall short of expectations. After several cycles, he begins to question the narrative he has been fed about relationships as the ultimate source of happiness. Through reflection and research, he discovers communities of men who have faced similar journeys and emerged stronger on the other side. Their stories resonate deeply, prompting him to experiment with new approaches focused on self development. Over time, he experiences the benefits of this shift, gaining confidence and clarity that transform his outlook. His journey becomes an inspiration for others, illustrating the power of honest self assessment and decisive action. Rhetorical pacing allows these narratives to build, gradually drawing listeners into the emotional and intellectual core of the message. Questions posed at key moments encourage active engagement with the material. What would happen if men collectively decided that their peace was the highest priority? How might society adjust if traditional roles were no longer assumed but earned through mutual effort? The answers are not always comfortable, but they are essential for progress. Men are encouraged to think critically about their own lives, applying the lessons learned to create personalized strategies for fulfillment. The process is ongoing and deeply personal, yet it connects individuals to a larger movement that is reshaping cultural norms from the ground up. Economic factors further reinforce the decision to walk away as men calculate the true costs of traditional arrangements. Housing, education, and healthcare expenses have risen dramatically, while wages in many sectors have stagnated relative to living costs. The financial burden of supporting a household often falls disproportionately on men, even as cultural messages promote equality in all things. This discrepancy creates an unsustainable equation that many choose to exit rather than endure indefinitely. By focusing on personal financial health, men create buffers that protect them from economic volatility and allow greater freedom in life choices. Investments in skills and assets yield returns that compound over time, providing security and opportunity. The strategic approach to money management reflects the same pattern recognition that guides their relational decisions, ensuring that resources are allocated where they produce the greatest value. Cultural shifts in media and entertainment also play a role in shaping perceptions and expectations. Portrayals of relationships often emphasize drama and conflict over stability and mutual respect, leading many to internalize unrealistic standards. Men who consume this content critically begin to see the disconnect between fictional narratives and real world outcomes. They turn instead to sources that offer practical advice and honest analysis, helping them navigate the complexities of modern life. The availability of diverse perspectives online democratizes access to information, empowering individuals to form their own conclusions. This intellectual independence is a hallmark of the awakening as men move beyond passive acceptance of mainstream messaging toward active engagement with ideas that serve their interests. The movement's emphasis on minimalism extends beyond material possessions to encompass emotional and social commitments. Men learn to say no to situations that do not align with their values, conserving energy for what truly matters. This selective engagement creates space for deeper connections and meaningful pursuits that enhance quality of life. Relationships with family and close friends become more intentional and rewarding when not overshadowed by the demands of dating or partnership. The peace that results is palpable and sustainable, fostering a sense of contentment that many had not experienced before. As more men adopt this approach, the collective impact becomes visible in changing social dynamics and cultural conversations. Looking ahead, the future holds both uncertainty and promise for those committed to the path of self reliance. Men are positioning themselves to thrive in an evolving world by developing skills that are transferable and resilient. They invest in continuous learning, staying ahead of technological and economic trends that shape opportunities. The adaptability that comes from independence serves them well as they navigate challenges and seize new possibilities. Communities of like minded individuals provide ongoing support and inspiration, ensuring that no one walks the path alone. The stories of success multiply, encouraging others to take the first steps toward their own awakening. Yet the road ahead is illuminated by the lessons of the past and the possibilities of the future, offering a path toward fulfillment that is both challenging and deeply rewarding. Technology has emerged as a powerful catalyst in this transformation, reshaping how men interact with the world and with one another. Dating platforms that promised effortless connections have instead exposed imbalances that many could no longer overlook. Men describe scrolling through endless profiles where the emphasis rests heavily on material expectations and superficial criteria, while genuine reciprocity appears scarce. Algorithms prioritize certain presentations, creating an environment where effort feels one sided from the outset. Countless individuals recount investing hours in crafting messages that receive minimal or no response, leading to a gradual realization that the system operates on dynamics misaligned with mutual value. One man in his late 20s shared how he dedicated 6 months to consistent engagement only to encounter repeated cycles of initial interest followed by abrupt disengagement once deeper conversations began. The pattern repeated so frequently that he began documenting it as a form of pattern recognition that ultimately prompted him to uninstall every application. In the months that followed, he redirected that same discipline towards skill development, launching a small consulting venture that now provides both financial stability and personal satisfaction. His experience mirrors thousands of others who have reached similar conclusions through direct observation rather than abstract theory. Rhetorical questions surface naturally in these accounts. What happens when the tools designed to connect people instead highlight the absence of balanced effort? How does a generation respond when digital environments confirm what real world interactions have already suggested? The answers lie in the quiet exodus that has taken place as men withdraw their participation from platforms that demand much while delivering little in return. This disengagement extends beyond dating into broader online spaces where men curate communities focused on practical advice, self improvement, and shared accountability. Forums dedicated to personal mastery have grown exponentially as participants exchange strategies for financial independence, physical conditioning, and mental resilience. These digital gathering places serve as modern equivalents of historical mentorship circles where wisdom is passed through lived experience rather than institutional authority. Men who once felt isolated in their observations now find validation and practical tools that accelerate their progress. The result is a network of support that operates independently of mainstream narratives, fostering a sense of collective momentum. Legal frameworks have played an equally significant role in solidifying this shift. Court systems handling family matters have developed procedures that many men perceive as structurally weighted toward predetermined outcomes. Accounts from proceedings reveal patterns where contributions over years of partnership receive less consideration than presumptive standards applied at the moment of separation. Financial obligations can extend for decades, creating long term constraints that influence decisions about future commitments. Men discuss these realities not with resentment, but with pragmatic assessment, weighing the potential costs against the benefits of formal entanglements. Many opt for arrangements that preserve autonomy, such as independent living or informal partnerships that avoid legal entanglements altogether. One professional in his 40s described navigating a multi year process that consumed significant resources before concluding that the experience reinforced his commitment to self directed living. He channeled the lessons learned into building a diversified investment portfolio and a lifestyle that prioritizes flexibility over traditional milestones. His story illustrates how adversity can become the foundation for greater strategic thinking and long term security. Educational environments have similarly shaped the perspectives of young men entering adulthood. School systems that increasingly frame certain natural behaviors as requiring correction have left many questioning the balance of institutional priorities. Boys often report feeling their energy and curiosity are viewed through a lens that emphasizes compliance over exploration. Curricular choices highlight specific narratives while downplaying others, creating an early sense of misalignment that carries forward into higher education and the workforce. As these individuals transition into adult responsibilities, they apply the same critical thinking to relationships and societal expectations. The process of reflection leads many to seek out alternative sources of guidance, ranging from historical texts to contemporary analyses of human behavior. This self education fills gaps left by formal schooling, equipping men with frameworks for understanding dynamics that were previously presented in oversimplified terms. The outcome is a generation better prepared to make informed choices based on evidence rather than inherited assumptions. Economic pressures amplify the appeal of independence. Rising costs in housing, transportation, and daily necessities have made traditional provider roles increasingly unsustainable for many. Men calculate the true expenses of maintaining households under current conditions and recognize that retaining control over their earnings allows for greater security and opportunity. Savings rates among those who have stepped back show measurable improvement as resources are allocated toward investments, emergency funds, and personal projects rather than external demands. Entrepreneurship has surged in this demographic, with individuals launching ventures that align with their skills and interests. One entrepreneur detailed how he used the capital he once reserved for dating expenses to fund a startup that now employs a small team and generates steady revenue. His success stems from the clarity that comes when focus narrows to controllable outcomes rather than unpredictable variables. The broader economic landscape reflects these individual choices as consumer patterns shift and industries adapt to changing participation levels. Demographic trends provide further evidence of the scale of this movement. Marriage rates have declined steadily in developed nations, while age at first marriage continues to rise. Birth rates follow a parallel trajectory, raising questions about future population structures and social support systems. Men who have chosen this path often express contentment with smaller circles and deliberate lifestyles that do not require expansion into family units. They invest instead in mentoring younger individuals through community programs or online guidance, creating legacies that extend beyond biological lines. The freedom from traditional timelines allows for exploration of interests that might otherwise have remained sidelined. Travel, creative pursuits, and advanced learning become accessible when resources and time are not divided among competing obligations. These choices reflect a redefinition of success measured by personal peace and accomplishment rather than external markers. Stoic principles have gained renewed relevance within these circles, offering practical tools for navigating uncertainty. Ancient teachings on controlling what lies within one's power resonate deeply with men who have witnessed the futility of attempting to alter unchangeable dynamics. Practices such as daily reflection, disciplined routines, and emotional regulation build resilience that withstands external pressures. Communities form around these ideas, hosting virtual discussions and in person meetups where participants share progress and challenges. The emphasis remains on actionable steps rather than theoretical debate, ensuring that philosophy translates into tangible improvements. One participant described how adopting a morning routine of physical training, meditation, and goal setting transformed his previously scattered energy into focused momentum. Over time, this discipline extended to career advancements and financial decisions, creating compounding benefits across all areas of life. Alternative communities have emerged as spaces where men build meaningful connections free from the expectations that once defined social interactions. Hobby groups centered on fitness, outdoor activities, and skill sharing provide outlets for camaraderie that feel authentic and voluntary. These gatherings emphasize mutual respect and shared purpose rather than performative roles. Participants report deeper conversations and lasting friendships that enrich daily existence without the complications of mismatched agendas. The rhetorical pacing of these discussions encourages ongoing growth. What becomes possible when social bonds form around common values instead of societal scripts? How does life change when presence is chosen rather than obligated? The answers unfold through lived experience as men craft environments that support their evolution. Composite stories drawn from numerous accounts illustrate the transformative power of this path. Picture a man who entered his 30s carrying the weight of repeated relational disappointments. He had followed conventional advice, investing in education, career, and social outings, only to encounter patterns that left him questioning the entire framework. Through careful observation, he recognized that his efforts were consistently met with escalating criteria rather than appreciation. The turning point came during a period of solitude where he began journaling his experiences and researching historical perspectives on human nature. This period of introspection revealed that his value existed independently of external validation. He redirected his energy toward fitness, nutrition, and professional certification, ultimately securing a leadership role that aligned with his strengths. Today, he maintains a balanced life filled with travel, reading, and selective friendships that bring genuine fulfillment. His journey serves as a blueprint for others, showing that the decision to step back opens doors to possibilities previously obscured by conventional paths. Another narrative involves a younger professional who witnessed the experiences of older colleagues and chose a different trajectory from the start. Observing the toll that certain commitments took on those around him, he prioritized skill building and financial literacy early on. He developed multiple income streams through freelance work and strategic investments, allowing him to maintain independence without compromise. Social media platforms that once fueled comparison now serve as tools for learning as he follows creators focused on practical mastery. His lifestyle includes regular physical challenges, creative hobbies, and contributions to local initiatives that align with his principles. The sense of control he describes stems from aligning daily actions with long term vision rather than reacting to external pressures. These stories highlight the diversity of paths within the movement, each shaped by individual circumstances yet united by core principles of self reliance and clarity. Societal adjustments are already visible as institutions begin to recognize the implications of widespread disengagement. Workplaces report shifts in employee priorities with greater emphasis on flexible arrangements and personal boundaries. Educational programs are exploring ways to address male underperformance by incorporating more balanced approaches to development. Policy discussions increasingly include considerations of fairness across all parties, acknowledging that sustainable structures require mutual investment. While change occurs gradually, the momentum builds through the cumulative effect of individual choices. Men continue to focus on what they can influence, creating ripples that extend into families, communities, and broader culture. The intensity of their commitment stems from the depth of lessons learned, yet it manifests through disciplined action rather than confrontation. Psychological freedom represents one of the most profound outcomes of this awakening. Men describe shedding layers of obligation that once dictated their emotional landscape. The mental space once occupied by navigating unpredictable expectations now fills with creativity, problem solving, and genuine curiosity. Practices such as mindfulness and cognitive reframing help process past experiences without carrying forward unnecessary burdens. This clarity enhances decision making across domains from career moves to daily habits. Relationships with family and friends deepen when interactions occur without hidden agendas or performance pressure. The overall effect is a heightened sense of vitality that permeates every aspect of existence. Men report sleeping better, maintaining consistent energy levels, and approaching challenges with renewed confidence. This internal transformation becomes visible externally as posture, communication, and presence reflect the underlying peace achieved. Long term societal effects will unfold over decades as the choices of this generation influence future structures. Workforce participation patterns may shift towards sectors that value autonomy and results over traditional hierarchies. Innovation could accelerate as talented individuals direct their efforts toward projects aligned with personal vision rather than external validation. Cultural narratives may evolve to reflect more nuanced understandings of contribution and fulfillment, acknowledging the validity of diverse life paths. Demographic realities will require adaptations in social services and economic planning as smaller family units become more common. These changes are neither inherently positive nor negative, but represent the natural outcome of individuals exercising agency in response to their environment. Men remain committed to their path, confident that observable results validate their approach over time. The movement continues to gain depth as participants refine their understanding through ongoing reflection and shared insights. Books, lectures, and discussions serve as resources for those seeking to deepen their knowledge of human behavior and historical precedents. Philosophical traditions that emphasize realism and self mastery provide frameworks that complement modern observations. Men integrate these ideas into daily practice, creating lives that feel authentic and sustainable. The rhetorical questions that guide their journey keep the process dynamic. What legacy will this generation leave when success is defined by inner peace rather than external markers? How will future generations benefit from the clarity achieved today? The answers emerge through consistent action and honest evaluation, ensuring that progress remains grounded in reality. As more men embrace this perspective, the collective impact becomes increasingly evident. Communities strengthen through mutual support and knowledge sharing, creating networks that extend beyond geographic boundaries. Online platforms facilitate connections that translate into real world collaborations, from business partnerships to collaborative projects in the arts and sciences. The emphasis on practical outcomes ensures that discussions lead to measurable improvements rather than endless debate. Men who once felt adrift now navigate with purpose, building foundations that support both personal happiness and broader contributions. The transformation is comprehensive, touching every area of life from health and finances to relationships and legacy planning. This comprehensive approach distinguishes the movement as one of constructive evolution rather than mere reaction. Women encountering these shifts have begun articulating their observations through various channels. Some express surprise at the reduced level of initiative, while others reflect on the factors that may have contributed to the current dynamic. Conversations reveal a range of responses, from calls for self examination to expressions of frustration at the changing landscape. Men observe these developments with detachment, having already committed to paths that prioritize their own well being. The focus remains on maintaining boundaries that protect hard won peace while continuing to pursue individual goals. Future interactions, if they occur, will likely be based on mutual recognition rather than assumed roles. For now, the priority rests with sustaining the progress achieved through deliberate choices and consistent effort. The storytelling tradition within these circles serves as a powerful vehicle for transmitting wisdom. Each account adds layers to the collective understanding, illustrating both challenges and triumphs along the way. Rhetorical pacing in these narratives builds engagement, encouraging listeners to apply the lessons to their own circumstances. Imagine waking each day with full ownership of your time and resources, free from the weight of unfulfilled expectations. Consider the possibilities that open when energy flows toward projects that genuinely excite rather than obligations that deplete. These mental exercises help solidify commitment and inspire continued growth. The path is not without its difficulties, yet the rewards of clarity and autonomy outweigh the temporary discomfort of adjustment. Economic independence provides the practical foundation for this freedom. Men develop multiple streams of income through strategic investments, side businesses, and career advancements that value expertise over seniority. Budgeting becomes an exercise in empowerment where every allocation serves a clear purpose aligned with long term vision. Debt reduction and asset building create buffers that enhance resilience against unforeseen events. The freedom to say no to opportunities that do not align with personal standards becomes a form of self respect that enhances overall quality of life. Financial security translates into greater peace of mind, allowing men to approach decisions from a position of strength rather than necessity. This foundation supports exploration in other areas, from travel to creative expression, creating a well rounded existence that feels complete on its own terms. Health practices receive renewed attention as men recognize the connection between physical vitality and mental sharpness. Training regimens incorporate strength conditioning, mobility work, and recovery protocols designed for sustainable performance. Nutritional choices focus on nutrient density and energy optimization rather than restrictive trends. Sleep hygiene and stress management techniques become non negotiable elements of daily routines. The cumulative effect is a body and mind operating at higher capacity, supporting ambitious goals and consistent execution. Men report feeling more capable and present in every interaction as vitality replaces the fatigue that once accompanied constant compromise. This physical foundation reinforces the psychological benefits, creating a virtuous cycle of improvement across all domains. Creative outlets flourish when time and energy are no longer fragmented by competing demands. Writing, music, visual arts, and craftsmanship become avenues for self expression that provide both fulfillment and potential income. Men who once set aside passions for the sake of relationships now dedicate regular blocks of time to honing their craft. The results range from personal satisfaction to public recognition as projects reach completion and find audiences. These creative endeavors contribute to a sense of purpose that extends beyond individual achievement, touching communities and inspiring others. The freedom to explore without external judgment allows for authentic development that might otherwise have remained suppressed. Legacy building takes on new dimensions as men consider the impact they wish to have beyond their immediate circle. Mentoring programs, professional guidance, and knowledge sharing become ways to pass on hard earned insights to younger generations. Contributions to open source projects, community initiatives, and educational resources create value that outlasts any single lifetime. The emphasis on impact through action rather than rhetoric ensures that efforts produce tangible results. Men approach legacy with the same strategic mindset that guides their personal development, focusing on areas where their unique strengths can make a meaningful difference. This forward looking perspective adds depth and motivation to daily choices, creating a sense of continuity and purpose. The philosophical integration continues to evolve as men encounter new ideas and refine their frameworks. Concepts from various traditions are examined for practical applicability, ensuring that knowledge serves action rather than becoming an end in itself. Discussions within communities maintain a balance between intellectual exploration and real world application, preventing theory from becoming disconnected from experience. The result is a dynamic body of wisdom that adapts to changing circumstances while remaining rooted in core principles of realism and self mastery. Men emerge from this process with greater confidence in their ability to navigate complexity, drawing on both historical precedent and contemporary evidence. As the movement matures, its influence extends into unexpected areas of culture and policy. Media representations begin to reflect the realities of independent living, highlighting stories of self made success and personal fulfillment. Public discourse incorporates perspectives that acknowledge the validity of diverse life choices rather than prescribing a single model. Institutions adapt their offerings to meet the needs of individuals who prioritize autonomy and results. The collective voice of men who have walked this path grows clearer and more articulate, contributing to broader conversations about fairness, balance, and sustainable social structures. The intensity of their message remains channeled through professional conduct and evidence based reasoning, ensuring that the discussion advances constructively. The road continues forward, illuminated by the clarity achieved and the possibilities that lie ahead for those committed to living with purpose and integrity. Future generations of young men stand to inherit this perspective at an earlier stage than ever before, and they approach adulthood equipped with frameworks that allow them to sidestep many of the pitfalls that once defined the experiences of their predecessors. Picture a young man in his early 20s who has watched mentors demonstrate the power of deliberate boundaries and self directed growth. He enters the workforce already focused on building multiple income streams and cultivating habits that reinforce mental clarity rather than seeking validation through external roles. His decisions reflect a deep understanding that true strength lies in consistent action and the willingness to prioritize long term stability over short term applause. This generation asks different questions from the start. What does a life of genuine satisfaction look like when it is built on personal standards instead of borrowed expectations? How can one create lasting impact without sacrificing inner peace along the way? The answers they discover through trial and application shape not only their individual paths, but also the collective direction of their peers. These young men form study circles and mentorship groups where they exchange practical strategies for career advancement, physical conditioning, and financial independence. They learn to evaluate opportunities based on observable outcomes rather than promises or social pressure. One such individual might describe how he turned down a high profile position that demanded constant availability, choosing instead a role that allowed him time to develop a side venture in sustainable technology. His choice paid dividends as the venture grew into a stable enterprise that now supports both his lifestyle and contributions to local innovation hubs. Stories like his spread through community networks, inspiring others to test similar approaches in their own contexts. The rhetorical flow of these gatherings keeps the momentum alive. What becomes possible when the next wave of men refuses to repeat outdated patterns? How does the world evolve when self mastery replaces the need for constant external approval? The responses come not in abstract theories, but in the visible progress each participant achieves month after month. Across the globe, the same principles take root in ways that respect local cultures while delivering universal results. In bustling urban centers of Europe, men organize informal gatherings to review investment strategies and share techniques for maintaining focus amid demanding schedules. In the vibrant economies of Southeast Asia, professionals leverage digital tools to connect across borders, exchanging insights on balancing ambition with personal restoration. Latin American networks emphasize community contribution alongside individual growth, creating models that honor family heritage while fostering independence. In African innovation hubs, entrepreneurs apply pattern recognition to market opportunities, building ventures that emphasize resilience and scalability. These varied expressions demonstrate that the commitment to self preservation transcends borders and backgrounds. Men from different walks of life discover shared language around purpose and clarity, forging connections that strengthen their resolve, regardless of location. One compelling account comes from a software developer based in a growing tech corridor who redesigned his career after recognizing the drain of constant availability. He transitioned to freelance projects that aligned with his expertise, allowing him to allocate time for family visits and skill building in emerging fields. His routine now includes early morning training sessions focused on endurance, followed by dedicated blocks for creative problem solving. The satisfaction he describes stems from the alignment between daily actions and long term vision. Another narrative involves a craftsman in a rural setting who expanded a small workshop into a training center for aspiring artisans. He teaches not only technical skills, but also the mindset of disciplined independence, encouraging students to view their work as an extension of personal integrity. These stories travel through shared platforms and local meetups, enriching the understanding of what sustained fulfillment can look like in diverse environments. The brotherhood that emerges in these dedicated spaces provides a foundation of mutual support that accelerates individual progress. Men gather in both virtual forums and in person settings to offer honest feedback, celebrate achievements, and hold one another accountable to stated goals. A typical session might involve reviewing progress on fitness targets, financial milestones, or creative projects with participants providing constructive input drawn from their own journeys. The atmosphere remains focused on growth rather than competition, creating an environment where vulnerability is met with respect and encouragement. This camaraderie fills a vital role, offering the sense of connection that once seemed tied exclusively to other forms of relationships. Rhetorical questions posed during these exchanges deepen the reflection. What power is unlocked when men stand together in pursuit of mastery rather than isolation? How does the journey transform when accountability comes from those who truly comprehend the path? The outcomes speak for themselves in the steady advancements and renewed sense of direction that participants report. Societal structures are already showing signs of adjustment as these choices accumulate over time. Educational institutions explore programs that emphasize practical life skills alongside academic learning, preparing young people for environments that reward self reliance. Corporate environments adapt by offering arrangements that value results over constant presence, recognizing that focused contributors deliver higher quality output when given appropriate autonomy. Policy conversations begin to address the realities of shifting participation patterns, considering frameworks that support individual initiative and economic flexibility. Healthcare systems place greater emphasis on preventive approaches that align with proactive lifestyles, helping individuals maintain vitality through disciplined routines. These developments occur gradually, yet their momentum builds through the collective impact of decisions made at the personal level. Men who have walked this path contribute by modeling responsible independence in their professional and community roles, demonstrating that clarity and purpose enhance rather than diminish broader contributions. Additional narratives continue to illustrate the depth of this transformation. Consider the architect who relocated to a coastal community to pursue designs inspired by natural forms. He now balances project work with time spent studying environmental systems, creating structures that reflect both innovation and respect for surroundings. His days include collaborative sessions with local builders and quiet periods of reflection that fuel creativity. The peace he experiences comes from the integration of work and personal values in a setting that supports his well being. Or envision the educator who developed curriculum resources focused on decision making and resilience, sharing them through workshops that reach students across regions. His efforts help equip the next generation with tools for navigating complexity while maintaining inner balance. These accounts highlight how the commitment to purposeful living opens avenues for meaningful impact that extend well beyond individual circumstances. Acceptance of observable reality serves as the steady anchor for this way of life. Men cultivate the habit of evaluating situations based on evidence rather than hope or pressure, allowing them to respond with precision and calm. This approach eliminates wasted energy on unchangeable elements, directing focus instead toward areas of direct influence. Daily practices such as structured reflection, physical training, and intentional goal setting reinforce this mindset, creating a rhythm that supports sustained progress. Challenges are viewed as opportunities for refinement rather than sources of frustration. The rhetorical inquiry that surfaces in personal practice and group dialogue remains consistent. What liberation follows when one aligns fully with what is rather than what might have been? How does existence change when acceptance becomes the foundation for decisive action? The lived experience provides the clearest confirmation as men report deeper satisfaction and greater capacity to pursue what matters most. Over the long term, these choices shape legacies that influence communities and institutions in lasting ways. Men who embody this approach often step into roles as guides and contributors, sharing insights that help others build similar foundations. They participate in initiatives that promote skill development, financial literacy, and personal responsibility, creating value that compounds across generations. Their influence appears in the quiet strength of those they mentor and in the evolving conversations about what constitutes a life well lived. The movement maintains its vitality through ongoing refinement as new perspectives integrate with established principles, ensuring continued relevance. This organic evolution keeps the focus on actionable outcomes rather than rigid doctrine, allowing for adaptation while preserving core commitments to clarity and self direction. As the years unfold, the broader cultural landscape reflects these accumulated shifts. Narratives in various media begin to explore themes of purposeful independence and inner strength, presenting balanced portrayals of men who thrive through deliberate choices. Public discussions incorporate recognition of diverse paths, acknowledging that fulfillment takes many forms when rooted in personal truth. Institutions respond by expanding offerings that support autonomy and results oriented approaches, meeting the needs of individuals who value control over their own trajectories. The collective presence of those who have embraced this way of life adds weight to conversations about fairness and sustainability, fostering environments where mutual respect can take hold. Men remain steadfast in their direction, confident that the results of their choices validate the path through consistent evidence. Shout out to the 1 hour gang. What did you think about what was discussed today? Do you agree with the perspectives shared here? Leave a comment on the video and share your thoughts so we can continue the conversation together. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away, and cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.